Okay, chanting time. Yoso Bhagava Arahang Sama Sambuddho Sawakato Yena Bhagavata Dhammo Supatipano Yasa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Tamayang Bhagavantang Sadhamang Sasangang Ime Hisakare Hiyatarahang Aropite Hiyabipu Jayama Sadhu no Bante Bhagava Suchira Parinipotopi Pachima Janatanuka Pamanasa Ime Sakare Dugata Panakala Bhute Patikan Hatu Amhakang Dikaratang Hitaya Sukhaya Alahang Sama Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi Suwakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Iti piso bhagava arahang sama sambuddho. Vichacharana sampanno sugato lokavidu. Anuttaro Purisa Dhammasarati Sata Deva Manusanang Buddho Bhagava Tamahang Bhagavantang Abhipujayami. Tamahang Bhagavantang Sirasa Namami. Supatipano Bhagavata Sawakato Bhagavata Dhammo Sanditiko Akaliko Ehipasiko Opanayiko Pachatang Veditabo Vinyuhi. Tamahang Dhammang Abhipujayami. pujayami Tamahang Dhammang Sirasanamami Supatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ujjapatipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yaya Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Samichi Patipano Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Yati Dang Chatari Purisa Yugani Ata Purisa Pugala Esa Bhagavato Sawaka Sangho Ahuneyo Pahuneyo Dakineyo Anjali Karaniyo Anutarang Punya Ketang Lokasa Tamahang Sangang Abhipujayami Tamahang Sangang Sirasanamami. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who knows the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, not busy with duties, and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, and wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove, wishing in gladness and in safety. May all beings be happy, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born. May all beings be happy. Let none deceive another, or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. seated or lying down, freed from drowsiness. One should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding, by not holding to false views. The pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being free from all sense desires, is not born again into this world. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, come. Here we go. Very exciting to see what questions we have this evening. Uh-oh. We're getting more and more. Ooh. Tomorrow? Nah. We'll cancel the question number 1. Now. Now, dear Ajahn Brahm, can you please say something about karma? Something about karma. That's asked. Can you please say something about karma and intention and sense of self? Can one ever do anything that on the surface goes against the precepts but is not with wrong intention? On the surface goes against the precepts but is not with wrong intention. Yeah. This was one of the Buddhists many years ago, and he migrated to Perth, and he was he used to be in the Navy before. And he thought Perth was a wonderful place. He came here. He was a Buddhist, a very nice Buddhist, very good Buddhist. But towards the end of his life, he got lung cancer. So I remember going to, that's right, he had to have an operation. No, it was not lung cancer. I'm getting mixed up. Before he had the lung cancer, he had some heart disease. So I went to go and see him in the Royal Perth Hospital. In those days, that people had like 4 patients to a room, and he was one of those 4 patients. And you're laying down there for a few days before you have your bypass operation he had. And he got friendly with the other people in the room, chatting away, and no one else to talk to all day. And the night before his operation, his wife called me. And she never called me before. She got the number from her husband and said, "What's wrong?" And he said, "Oh, I've done a terrible thing." "What have you done?" She said, "I lied to my husband." And she said she'd lied to her husband for the first time in about 40 years. It's pretty good going. But she said, "I'm a Buddhist too. Well, you may not know it, but my husband is the main Buddhist, but I lied to him." I said, "Why? What happened?" "Well," she said, "I went to visit him this afternoon, the night before his operation, and the patient in the next bed had the operation this afternoon. And he asked me, how was, I say it's Fred, how was Fred's, his operation?" I said, "Oh, fine, no trouble at all. He's in the ICU recovering now." But what had happened, she met the family on the way into the room, and they were devastated. They were crying their eyes out because Fred had died under the operation. She said, "I lied to my husband. I said that he was fine, he survived, but I knew he had died. I did that because," she said, "my husband is so afraid of that operation that I didn't want to scare him. If the person in his next bed had died, the operation he's going to have tomorrow morning, that might have just almost caused his death." I always remember that conversation because he was close to death after the operation. He was old, not that sort of strong, and he recovered from that operation, but only just. I often think that if his wife had told the truth, he may have died. So I tell people that it's okay to lie once every 40 years. If you have a good reason. And you can actually see what that really means. So the precepts, they're like red lights at the intersection. And it's illegal to drive through the red lights, isn't it? Or is it? If I had a heart attack, I told too many jokes and I laughed too much, and you got in your car and you're driving to the hospital, I hope you go through the red traffic lights, please, to get me to hospital in time. And obviously, what would you do? You know, you're driving, maybe at night time, not much traffic. You come to the red traffic lights, what would you do? You look left, look right, make sure it's clear, and then you go across. It's emergency. And the police would never, ever prosecute you for that, because it was an emergency. So the red traffic lights can be traversed, but you stop to make sure it's safe to do so, and then you go through. And that's like the 5 precepts. But I can't resist this one, because sometimes people tell me the 5 precepts, oh yeah, we can keep the 5 precepts, but it's not that's the 4th one. Well, the 4th one is a problem. They say it's the 5th one. This is Australia, they say, and just, people drink here. And they have alcohol. It might be Christmas coming up soon. You get invited out to your friends. And so sometimes people say, well, it's only a little drink. You don't get drunk, just have a little bit. Surely, moderation, middle way, you can have a little bit. And then I actually answer them this way. I said, well, I can understand your thinking. It's all right, maybe, to have a little bit of alcohol and do a little bit of lying, a little bit of adultery, a little bit of murder, and a little bit of stealing. Because with that argument, it's only the 5th one they say, oh, just a little bit. Just talk it over with your partner. Just a little bit of adultery. That's only a little bit, at Christmas time. So you put it like that, and you can see the fallacy of their argument. So sometimes, you have right intention, because above the precepts, where they all come from, is this wonderful sense of kindness and wisdom. You're really trying to be kind and make sure you don't harm another being. You don't harm yourself. That's the origin of the 5 precepts. Not do anything which harms yourself or harms others. There you get the 5 precepts. Which is one of the reasons why that people these days say, 5 precepts, it's just too much to remember. So then I give them 2 precepts. Don't do anything which harms another being. Don't do anything which harms yourself. And that's 5 precepts, and where they come from. Now, I didn't invent that. That's basically coming from the Buddha's advice to his son Rahula. Dear Ajahn, when you look to the future, oh dear. A terrible thing's going to happen. I predict this. A terrible thing's going to happen on Sunday. The retreat's going to end. I predict the future. Okay, there were. When you look to the future with positivity, isn't that just delusion? How can you be realistic but at peace with future possibilities? It's not delusion. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. So when you look at it with positivity, you are helping to create that positive future. If you look at it as negativity, it's all going to go wrong, it's going to be terrible, then you get depressed, you don't do anything. When you look at it with future positivity, then of course that energizes you, that motivates you. Go and do something good in this world. If you think, what's the point? What's the point of doing anything positive? It all gets destroyed. People take advantage of you. They exploit you. It's all going to go wrong anyway. What's the point? If you think like that, of course, then you don't do anything good. which is one of the reasons why that positivity creates good energy. It's amazing what people manage to do. Sometimes impossible things happen. You know, we're coming to the fire season soon, and there is a chant which we do at Nuns Monastery during the fire season, and it's called the Quail's Protection. And it's the story of this little bird. It's in a forest. The quail is a tiny bird. And in India it was. I think in Australia they eat more than they do in India, so they're bigger. But anyway, this was supposed to be a very weak and small bird. And there was a fire in the forest. And so together with many other birds, they tried to fly out, and the quail tried to fly out. But as it was flying, it saw there was so many other young birds who hadn't learned to fly yet, and they couldn't escape. And there's all these animals in the forest who were just crawling on the ground. They weren't fast enough to escape, and there was their babies too were threatened by this forest fire. So the little quail thought, I can't just try and flee and forget about all these other beings who are going to be hurt and injured and even killed. So the little quail thought, well, I've got to do something. So the quail just flew to a pond, a lake of water, flew in it, wet all its wings, and then went over the fire and shook its wings so that a few drops of water will fall on the fire. And probably they would all evaporate before they even hit the fire. But he was doing something. He did that quite a few times. You know, going off to the water, soaking his wings and body, flying over the fire, and sprinkling a few bits of water over the fire. It was, the origin of aerial bombing for water for fire prevention. But anyway, according to the story, this was from the suttas, that they saw this in the heaven realms. They saw this little bird doing the impossible. They said, that won't put out a fire. I said, but at least I'm doing something. Because he was doing something, the heavenly beings started to say, well, we can do something much more than that. So according to the story, the heavenly beings made a big rainstorm and quenched the fire, just out of respect for the little quail, who was just doing something, even though many people say it's impossible. You can't do that. But that little quail had a very incredibly positive attitude towards the future. When the Buddha told stories like that, it was to encourage others. You may think it's impossible, it can't be done. But you do something. And other people see you and they give a hand. One example of actually doing the impossible is that you're sitting in it right now, Jhana Grove, our Buddhist Society in West Australia. When we first came here, 37 years ago when I first came to Australia, because I had a maths background, I had a look at the accounts. We were in a small house in North Perth, in Magnolia Street. I looked at the accounts, and we had a house there, but it was worth $50,000. And our mortgage was for $49,000. We had $1,000 equity. Is that what you call it? Equity? Whatever. Anyway, that's all we had. We had all these great plans, build forest monasteries and stuff. And so many times, we did stupid things, like buying this place or buying the place over there. We didn't have enough money to buy it. We did it anyway. And it's amazing just how the funds came. Or you do impossible things like getting the Nuns Monastery. I went down with South. That was totally impossible. Because I remember the story behind that. It was very inspiring. Just, first of all, let's put an article in the newsletter. An article, I think we need a Nuns Monastery. Not much people were helping out. We started a bank account. $10 here, $5 there. You don't get very far that way. But anyway, people were getting interested. And then, what was it? Well, the first big breakthrough was when one of the members who lived in Fremantle said, one of his friends, who was a Buddhist, but it's more like into Tibetan Buddhism, he heard that we were building a monastery for women, a Nuns Monastery. So he wants to make a donation. So he came over to Jhana Monastery and I met him. And he said that his wife had just given birth to his first child. His first child. It happened to be a daughter. And he said, I don't know if my daughter, when she grows up, ever wants to be a Buddhist nun. But I want her to have that opportunity if she so wishes. And he gave me a check for $250,000. Whoa. I don't usually shake. That's amazing. And so, we had some money to start. So we went looking for a piece of land. And I remember going with Bianca and her partner at the time, Ron, and up Reen Road, there's a piece of land on sale for there's 30 acres. 30 acres. I remember just going up there and just, as we passed, looking, to go to this other piece of land, there was this big sign on the side of the road, 583 acres of solitude or serenity or something like that. And I said, well, that's interesting, let's go and have a look. They said, no, there's no way we can afford something like that. So we went to see this dinky old 30 acres. It's not really dinky in many people's books, but it was small. There's lots of houses and farms around it. It wasn't that impressive. So we left pretty early and said, let's go and have a look at 583 acres of serenity. And it doesn't cost anything to go in and have a look. When you went in there, it was really amazing. So, wow, it'd be great if we could get a place like this. And it was going to be on auction. So, once you get inspired by something, then so I talk to a lot of people, get a bit of money here, a bit of money there, see if you can borrow from this one and sort of loan from that one and just all our little accounts, stir them all up and put them in one place or something like that. I don't know how legal all that was, but anyway, it was all for a good cause. And because it was on auction, I remember just going there an hour earlier with, I think it was Ajahn Charles, the two of us, and we went to the very centre of that place. That's where one of those stupas is. And the two of us sat down. No one else was around because they were going to do the auction somewhere else. And we really chanted. Whoa. We really laid it on the line for those heavenly beings. You better do the right thing and chant, chant, chant. Really well. And then we had the auction. And the auction, it was, we worked out and had an agreement with our committee. We've got to do things according to the committee. And people say I'm the spiritual dictator, but I'm not really. Well, a little bit. But anyway, that we realised we could sort of afford 600,000. Now, thanks a lot to that 250,000, but a bit here, a bit there, and borrowing and stuff. That was our max, really max. I was going to push it to 600,000. So anyway, there was somebody here who was being our auctioneer. Who was that? Sitting over there. Good old Eddie Fernanda. He was the hero that day. Because it got up to 600,000. He bid 600,000. He put his hand up, 600,000. I said 600, means 600,000. And then I didn't chant with a loud voice, because I just said, please make everybody's mouth shut. And as I was thinking that, someone put their hand up, 625. Oh. And Eddie put his hand up, 650. And I was standing next to our treasurer, and the treasurer, he went ballistic. He said, he can't do that. It's not his money, it's our money. He can't do that. We can't afford it. Stop him, Ajahn Brahm. And I said, no, leave him alone, it's good. And of course, it was passed at 650. And that was actually the reserve price, so they told us. So we got it for 650. Well done, Eddie. And of course, the next few days, we managed to borrow some money here, get some more donations there. And when it was something real, people could see it and get inspired by it, it wasn't that hard to get the rest of the funds to pay the bill. Because people wanted it to happen. And there's lots and lots of people wanted this to happen. Oh, that was the owners. Yeah, the owners, but they were... No, I was there at the time that beforehand, about a year before, 6 months before something, somebody offered $1 million and they refused it. But then the prices of land had gone down, 6 months or a year month. But anyway, the reserve price was $650. So it's worth much more than $1 million now. Oh, prime real estate. Sorry? Well, it's very easy to get that. We just do a resolution at our committee. No, it's your place. And anyway, so there's a positive attitude there. It was a bit unrealistic to think we could actually, get the funds for that. But no, let's do it. And that positivity is kind of infectious. Yeah, it can be done. So let's do it. And it gets done. And now there's a beautiful Nuns Monastery. What's the highest of intelligence? I mean, the most intelligent person in the world, or the highest intelligence. What intelligence means reading between the lines, interlegeres. I'm glad I did some Latin when I was at school. I thought it was really boring, especially because, these old schools, they used to carve on the desks, there's like graffiti. And the Latin, I always remember the graffiti on my desk about Latin. Latin is a language as dead can be. First it killed the Romans, now it's killing me. I can understand that, but anyway. So intelligence is literally to read between the lines. It actually is to see deeper. So it's not just knowledge. It's not being informed and being a professor at university, because some of the professors at university can be really stupid. But it's actually understanding where this all means, what it all means, seeing deeper than what you read in the books. And that also goes for Dhamma. There's many people who know the sutras much better than I do, what the Buddha said. But how many people know what the Buddha meant? They have to get your knowledge of the sutras and add to it your experience. The sutras, the books, they're the maps. But the maps are not the territory. The maps tell you where to go, and you look around and you understand the territory. That's the highest intelligence. Dear Ajahn, how can you have courage to do what is difficult to do? Because you're scared of doing what is easy to do. Is that right? How can you have the courage to do what is difficult to do? Why not? One of the Buddha's sayings is, what is bad is easy to do. What is good is difficult to do. So what do you want to do? Easy or difficult? Bad. That's just general. All bad things are easy to do. But good is hard to do. You've got to give up your actually, it's not really true of that, because doing good is very easy. You have an easy life. People don't sort of criticize you. They don't sort of tell you off because you're a good person. That's what I found anyway. So have your courage to do what is difficult to do. You've got to do it sooner or later anyway. You might as well get it over and done with now. So my advice to you in your life, do the difficult stuff first of all, get it out of the way, and then you can do the easy stuff for the rest of your life. That make sense? No, not convincing you. Sometimes you don't have a choice in life. Something needs to be done. You just have to do it. That's it. The other thing which I always say at this time of the retreat on that side of the hall here, where you're all sitting. You know how that floor occurred? There's another largely positive story. They were building Jhana Grove, and we asked the builder, the builder was great, he was a friend, and he did it very cheap for us. But anyway, that the building manager, the one who was actually on site, she told us, I asked her, when would it be finished? He said, maybe by January or February, when was it, 2000 something. And I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, definitely. He said, are you not trust my professional, competence? And I was going to say yes, but I thought I'd better not. He said, it'd be finished by January. And I thought, well, I've known builders, January, probably about March. So April was the Easter, so I said, that's a wonderful time to have the opening ceremony on the Good Friday in Easter, followed by our Easter retreat. And of course, when it came to January, no, we're not going to finish in January, maybe February. By February, well, maybe March. We're in March, when we already organised a ceremony. We had Jeff Gallup, he was the premier. He was our patron, he was going to come and open it for us. And it came to the Thursday before Good Friday. The next day we're going to open up with a big ceremony. And still, this was half concrete in this hall. They hadn't finished the bamboo flooring. And the person who was supplying it tried to get all sorts of contractors in, but they just would not do it. So we're faced, about 5 p.m. in the evening, we're faced with the floor here, not finished. We're going to have the grand opening ceremony at 9 o'clock the following morning. Oh my goodness. What would you do if you had positive thinking? There's always something we can do. There's always one means of doing it. And so who could do it? The monks. So we finished this off. There's Ajahn Bambari, Santuti, and quite a few others. They worked all night, and they said 4 o'clock in the morning they finished this. Worked all night till 4 to finish it. You're sitting on it right now, as it is, when they finished it. And so, I don't know if they had an hour's sleep or 2 hours sleep for that, and up as we got all ready for the grand opening ceremony. I thought that's a wonderful way of finishing off this retreat centre. Started off by the monks, finished off by the monks, and enjoyed by you. It's our gift to you. People always think, oh no, just we have to support the monks. But we also, works the other way around too. We support you. And the nuns support everybody as well. So that's actually it's inspiring when I see that. And I was there at the time, obviously. So that's thinking positively. What are people doing? I just came up with an Ajahn Brahm drinking game. Here are some of the rules. Every time Ajahn coughs, take a drink. Every time Ajahn adjusts his robe, take a shot. Every time Ajahn tells a joke you already heard, finish your drink. What do you think? I think people are thinking too much. No, it's good humour. So thank you for that. Venerable Sir, I usually do I usually do last something anapanasati when I was meditating last evening. Okay, I usually do last evening. Then so last evening I usually do anapanasati when I was meditating last evening. The nimitta was very small in the far right of my vision. As it became bigger, it seemed to go towards the central vision. Is that the correct way that I've been meditating? Yeah, that's okay, because very often when you get the nimittas, the lights in the mind, sometimes they're not central when they start. It's quite often they come on the edges of your vision when they first. It's like they're checking you out. Are you ready for me? You just come in and have a look. And if you go looking for them, you almost like turn your attention to where they are, you try and bring them to your center, then of course they'll run away, you're disturbing them. Leave them alone. And then they'll just, eventually, if you're ready for them, you're at peace, reasonably still, they'll just come in by themselves, right in front of you. That's fine, that's no trouble at all, you're doing the right thing. Dear Ajahn Brahm, any advice or opinion on exercise meditation? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh no, I'm running, weights, etc. Thank you, with metta. If you're young and you want to do that, you're used to doing running meditation or weight meditation, fine. But how much of that do you really need to do? And that's one of the reasons why we like to do the walking meditation, which is good exercise. That's one of the best exercises, just walking. Because you're not really harming your knee joints. You're not overstretching when you do weightlifting. So, of course, I do my weightlifting. I get a cup of tea and I go up, up, up. Sorry, I don't take exercise seriously, as you can well see. You know that sometimes the people do sport for exercising, but most sport is competitive. And that's the one thing I really never liked about sport, why we had to just compete against our friends. And to the point, I don't mind like a friendly competition, just see who wins. Whoever wins has to pay for the dinner that evening or something. A nice sort of bit of friendship. But sometimes people just would win at all costs. I thought it's a stupid way it's no fun that way. The last soccer game I ever played, at the college in Cambridge, it's 11 people against 11, but only 9 of their side turned up. So 11 people against 9. It's so one-sided. It was only like 6 or 7-0 at half-time. So I went up to my captain and said, can I play for the other side, the other college, in the second half? Just make it even for a good game. And he swore at me. He said, no, you can't do that. And that was the last game I ever played, competitive. Because, to them, it was more important to win at all costs, even though you weren't enjoying the game. That's just not part of my character, to compete and win at all costs. It's just the joy of the game is what I go for. So running, weights, etc., if you want to, fine. But don't take it too far. If you really need more exercise, then please go and see the caretakers. I'm sure they can give you some more cleaning to do or other stuff and make it useful. Oh my goodness. Hey, this is start here. Okay. My goodness me. 8 questions here. My goodness me. What is the experience of an arahat? You have to be one to know. Is it really appropriate to describe them as experience happiness when they are still here until parinibbana? Yeah, why not? You've got to call them something. Do they get grumpy? No, they only get grumpy to make jokes for you or to teach something. Why do they have preferences? Because out of loving kindness, they want everyone to become enlightened. Isn't that just a flip side of aversion? Of course not. Aside from avoiding indigestion, why do they care what goes into their mouths? Because it might kill the animal who actually you're eating if it's alive. Sometimes people ask about eating meat. Once I ate a live animal. Because, somebody... a live animal. Somebody had these biscuits they got from, I think, Denmark, and they put them in a boat and sent them over to Perth, and they thought we might like them. And so they buttered them with something, and then they gave them to us. The first year we were here in Perth, I'd already eaten mine, and Ajahn Charles was saying, "Hey, my biscuit's moving." And he looked at it, sure, it's full of worms. It's all right, I can't do anything about it. It's already in there, I never knew. It's unintentional. I survived. Those worms never did, though. Why are you grossing out? I've eaten worse stuff than that. They was dead, but, you know. They didn't know. They're really good Buddhists. I won't tell you. I don't mind telling you who they are. Why not? You know Ben Anson? Ben, yeah. Ben and his wife. They did that. I must admit that I shouldn't tell all the people, the operations manager and other stuff, because this was really sort of dangerous stuff. But I don't know if this was... It's interesting, I never made this connection before. Maybe it was in revenge, because when we were building the kitchen at Nuns Monastery, you know, it's brickwork. And so, you know, we would actually clean the bricks with acid. And we just, you know, we're doing that in the morning, and we went out for lunch, and they served us lunch, and they had this little kid. And the kid, you know, it pooed its pants, and they needed to find some water somewhere to wash it. And they washed his bum with brick cleaning acid. It was only a baby. And the baby started crying. Oh, it survived. But it really did a good job cleaning the bottom. You know, we should have put a label on it or something, but we didn't ever think that anyone would just use a bucket of water and wash a poor baby's bottom. But the baby did very well. I think she's over in Queensland now. She's a clinical psychiatrist. She's done very well in her life. But she has no memory at all about that trauma. Anyway, where are we going for this? So that may be why they gave me these biscuits with worms in it. What else then? Is the only point the end of rebirth, and that pleasure and pain continue until death? The only point to end... What the only point to end rebirth? Yeah, end rebirth, because as soon as you get reborn, you get more pain. Did any of you ever see that movie Groundhog Day? Why didn't you just keep on living? You can do whatever you want. You know, he's had a wonderful life, and he could learn whatever he wanted and just enjoy everything. But he got so bored after a while. Been there, done that. That's what happens. So many lifetimes you've had. What more would you like to do? Been there, done that. You're suffering. So after a while, enlightenment. So no more births anymore. Anyway, do arahants experience emotions other than Brahmaviharas? No. Is an arahat always mindful and always free of hindrances, except when they're asleep? What if an arahat has an operation and is given anesthetic? Are they mindful? Of course they're not mindful, because their brain has been turned off by the anesthetic. What about other stages of the path? Yeah, what about them? That's enough for now. Dear Ajahn, let us name the veranda in front of your cottage as Eightfold Path. Then your cottage is Samadhi, and so on. The nuns' cottages will be Samasati. Dhamma hall will be known as Samasamadhi. This will be a great teaching and learning tool. What to think about it, please. Cottage 6 to 10 can be named as Sakaya Ditti He. That means personality view. No, we should name 6 to 10 as 4 Brahmaviharas plus. If you behave in cottage number 1, we call it right view. If you behave in cottage number 2 and you have right motivation. And cottage number 3 will be right speech, which will be no speech. It will be the silent cottage. Cottage number 4 will be right action. Cottage number 5, right livelihood. Cottage number 6. Who's in cottage number 6? Right effort, come on. And cottage number 7 will be right mindfulness. Cottage number 8 will be so still. You go past it and nothing moves. You just see all these beautiful nimitta lights coming through the windows. But then there's 2 more cottages. You know, this is a good point of Dhamma, which is why I'm telling this. It's not really a joke. There is a book of sutras, a religious text called the Anguttara Nikaya. And these are like numerical discourses. So all the ones they put together, all the 2s they put together, 3s, like anicca, dukkha, anatta, 4s, like 4 noble truths, and so on. And so when I first read that in the Pali, I thought, oh, the 8s, you'll find the Eightfold Path in there. They never mentioned the Eightfold Path at all there. Why not? Because it was in the 10s. The 8 is the path, 9 and 10 is what happens after you complete the path. So 1 to 8 is just the practice. 9 and 10 is the result. Number 9 is, what do you reckon it is? It's enlightenment. And number 10 is the knowledge of enlightenment. You can't be enlightened and not know it. So this is 9 and 10. So who's in cottage number 10? You know you're enlightened? 9, okay, you're enlightened, that's close enough. Anyway, dear Ajahn Brahm, I recently saw 2 persons, one elderly, one teenager, look like being possessed by ghosts, screaming, scolding in male voices. Very scary. Is this real? Usually not real. Because, you know, in my life as a monk, sometimes, you know, that people ask you, can you please help? You know, when people are so-called possessed. And in my life, it's only once which I saw someone who looked, you know, really was possessed by a spirit. And when they asked me to do some chanting for them, I just really hesitated. Because I knew that once that spirit had left, the person would die. The spirit had taken over. And the old consciousness, stream of consciousness had left. There's a real possession. Other times it's mostly just other emotional problems, could be schizophrenia or something. Because spirits are lower beings. Human beings are much higher. Spirits and ghosts, they cannot really affect you because you're much more higher than they are. But nevertheless, because people's belief, and if they are weak, either very old or very sick, or even psychologically very weak, then maybe a spirit can come in. But for most people, they can't come in at all. So you don't have to worry about that. But Ajahn Charles' story, which was one of the best, that the villagers came early in the morning before alms round, and they said one of the women in their village had been possessed by a very bad spirit and was screaming and yelling all sorts of obscenities. And they said they were bringing her in to see Ajahn Charles, see if Ajahn Charles could do something. And Ajahn Charles listened, and then he got 2 novices to dig a big hole and the other one to boil some hot water. Because, you know, you don't have electricity, they have to start a fire and put some water in the big jar and start boiling it. And as he was saying that, no one knew what on earth Ajahn Charles was up to. So what happened was that we heard, you know, the noise as quite a few villagers had to drag this lady. She was so powerful. And when she came close to Ajahn Charles' hut, you could hear what she was saying. She was actually screaming really bad words at Ajahn Charles. And that was really surprising because no Thai would ever do that in their right mind. And these villagers, the farmers, they were having a really hard time just keeping her still. And they dragged her right in front of Ajahn Charles. And Ajahn Charles would say, I need that hole deeper now. I need more hot water. And this woman was just shouting at him and screaming, frothing at the mouth and really crazy eyes. And we didn't know why. He wanted a hole and water. And then Ajahn Charles said what he was going to do. He said, this is a very, very dangerous spirit in here, really dangerous. The only thing we can do is to throw this woman in that hole, pour all the boiling water over her, and then bury her. That's the only thing which will work. That's very, not ordinary therapy. For those of you who've read that story before, that was just emotional intelligence way up there. Because the woman heard it. She heard what was going to happen to her if she didn't get her act together pretty quickly. And it's wonderful to see. It's like self-preservation, because she thought Ajahn Charles would do that. And even I thought he might do that. He was just so unpredictable. But anyway, because of that, you could see her, she started to relax, stopped shouting obscenities. And then in about 5 or 10 minutes, not that long, she was sitting there exhausted, as Ajahn Charles was giving her the 5 precepts. And they took her back to the village. That was just such emotional intelligence by Ajahn Charles. How he could actually do that and see it working. So please, don't you try that at home. It probably won't work. But it's brilliant. Self-preservation was something which, even if you're crazy and mad, you can still sort of almost link into that. And that will keep her sane. Anyway, many blessings and gratitude for your dream team. It's like heaven here. The dream team. You've been sleeping too much. No, very good. Thank you. It is like heaven here. It's a beautiful place. You've got no worries, nothing to... And even the food. You don't know what food's coming tomorrow. So it's always exciting. It's not like going to a restaurant, it's what you're going to eat tomorrow. So, are you always happy with the food? No, you didn't say it right. Come on. Awesome. I understand anxiety is looking at the future with a negative mind. Again, intellectual makes sense, but negative thinking just keeps popping up, probably from subconscious. What to do to make them stop? Would the story of the monster still apply? Of course it does. Don't try and stop the negative thoughts, otherwise you're being negative about negativity. So it becomes double negativity. So the negativity is old stuff. So if you do have negative thoughts, one interesting way of dealing with them, I said this a little bit, but not really emphasized it, is if you have a negative thought and you think it's your negative thought, then it's like you have the hand and you put it right in front of your face. Now my hand is so large I can't see anybody. I can't see this room. I can't see the lights or the doors or anything, just my hand. How can I solve this problem when you're so negative and you really feel bad about being negative? That's all you see. So what you do is you put your negativity where it belongs. So here somewhere. So you see the hand, but you also see everything else in life. And that is the essence of that story of the 2 bad bricks in the wall. Because I thought that was my error when I laid my first wall and the 2 bad crooked bricks in it, I wanted to destroy that wall. I couldn't stand it. This is honest, I had nightmares. I wake up in the middle of the night on my stupid wall I'd laid 2 bad bricks. And when any visitors came, I'd always make sure I'd be the tour guide. So I'd take them somewhere else so they couldn't see it. I asked Ajahn Charles at the time, can we get some dynamite and blow it up so I can start again? You couldn't afford that. The 2 crooked bricks caused me so much suffering for 3 months. Roughly, until this guy came. He saw that wall, I was with him. He said, it's a beautiful wall. Can't you see the 2 crooked bricks? I said, yeah, I can see the 2 crooked bricks. He said, but I can also see the 998 perfect bricks. And that was the first time in 3 months I could see anything except my mistakes. It was weird. Every time you passed that wall, your eyes would just go to the 2 crooked ones, the 2 crooked bricks. And I was blind. I was blind. I couldn't see the perfect bricks which I'd laid. And that's like the anxiety, negativity for the future. You only see the bad things which might happen. Usually good things happen. So that's the way you overcome that anxiety with reality. See the 998 good bricks in your future. 2 bad bricks. We focus on them too much. That's why we think that's all there is in the future. Bad stuff. You can have a nice meal tomorrow. Have a nice meditation tomorrow. Nice talk. Nice rest. Pretty good prediction for tomorrow. We don't really think about that. We think of what might go wrong tomorrow. And that just is so close to us, the mistakes and negativity, that we do become very anxious. We think that's the best way. It's not. What is the best way to stop identity and attachment? Meditate. Sometimes when I give a short answer, which is so accurate, people don't want that. They want some more information. Well, if you don't want to stop identity, identifying an attachment, what do you want to attach to? Just look at it in a different way. Not like how much you have in this world, how much you worked for and acquired. Instead of praising people because they got so much money in the bank, they got so many big houses, they got so many luxury cars, they got so much jewelry, so many designer clothes. Is that what you want to be? Is that what you're proud of? People have made it. That's why it's nice being a monk. Because sometimes you hang out with such people, millionaires. I don't really hang out, but you see, this is one millionaire, I think I could say his name, in Malaysia. He's the owner of the Tropicana group. And I went to his house once, actually twice, been there. You know that on his gate, he's got guards there with machine guns. Just like a prison. And I don't know actually who's in the prison, or whether he's trying to keep bad people out, or there's bad people in. And he's so anxious, really terrified. And I think, I don't want anyone to have to live like that. It'd be far better if he just gave all his money to his children, they probably want it, and just went off and become a monk. Much more free. The Buddhist story about that was the 2 mango trees. And the king was coming back home. Oh, I've done pretty well. The king was coming home after exercising, training with his army. And as he came past, he saw these 2 mango trees, and one tree was full of juicy mangoes. The other tree had no mangoes. And he cursed that tree without mangoes, stupid tree. And the one with mangoes on, he could smell them. And he thought, I'll come back after we get back to the palace, and I'll come back and get some of the mangoes for myself. So he went back to the palace, he changed, he got on his horse and went to the mango trees, and he found the soldiers behind him hadn't waited at all. They'd all got all the mangoes off that tree. And in the course of what they were doing, they almost destroyed that tree. Taking all the branches and half the leaves off. He looked at the other tree, which never had any mangoes on at the beginning. And that was left alone in healthy tranquility. All the branches and twigs and leaves still there. And he realized, he said, he was a king. He was like the mango tree with lots of mangoes on. Other people, neighbors, other armies wanted to take over his kingdom. And eventually they would. So he abdicated and went off to become a monk. And had a very peaceful, happy life. So what would you like to be? A tree with lots of mangoes? which people will destroy you trying to get those mangoes? Or would you like to be the beautiful mango tree? Lots of leaves, lots of twigs, but nothing which people want. So anyway, that's these stories to stop attaching to things. Hi Ajahn, when are you going to remove the shackles from the caged Buddha? That's the Buddhas on the stupas over there. You know, if you go onto the top of the stupas, the two monuments outside there, you see inside is a beautiful Buddha. And I haven't really told you the story behind those. Put them in like this. It's almost like a cage. But the story goes in Indonesia, in Java, if you climb onto the top platform there, and if you put your hands in the holes, and if you can touch the Buddha, if you can reach far enough to touch the Buddha inside, then you will find true love. If I see any of you trying that, I'll tell your partners. I will dob you into Hasapanya if I see you try it. That was the myth. And so it's a very, very good sort of selling point, because you get many people in Java, even Muslims, go up there and see them putting their hands in there trying to reach something. There are security cameras somewhere. Be careful. So actually, that's what they are. Sorry? Donation? No. They don't like donations. And how much anyway? They can't reach it. They want their donation back. Anyway. Okay. Putting my hands to touch the Buddha seems painful. You're very lucky. I hope you didn't touch them. They blew them up in Afghanistan, now caged in Indonesia, or next something. Please free my Buddha. No, because then anyone can touch it, and then will you find true love? No, it's a tradition, and it's a nice little stupa, and you can see it. You don't need to touch it, otherwise you get into big trouble. Ajahn Brahm, today is payday. Yay! Yet I still have not received any cash. The check is in the mail. At least I have slept and ate really, really well. Thank you very much. Maybe I'll have my pay in the next retreat. Put it in your bank first. Thank you. I haven't got a bank. That's for you, your happiness and well-being. And sometimes it comes, this is an important point, it comes sometimes when you go home. It's weird. You really meditate a lot here, and then you go home, and you think, I might as well meditate. Sunday evening, nothing to do. And when you're not expecting anything, that's when the paycheck comes. Ajahn, today meditation has been very difficult. My mind kept going to matters that worry me. Why? What worries you? It's one of the sayings of the Dalai Lama. If you can do something about worrying about things, if it makes a difference, then fair enough, worry about it. But all the worry which you do doesn't change things at all. It just makes you tired and upset. So looking at it that way, it's a totally illogical, unhelpful waste of time, worrying about things. If you could make a difference, fine. If you can't, don't worry. I tried lots of options, but no success at gaining any peace. Any suggestions? How long in your life have you been worrying about things? Has it really made this world a better place? Usually not. One of the stories from my own life, and it's a very early story, I was very fortunate in all the difficulties and problems I faced. Because in this time, I remember when I got home from school, my mummy, I must have only been 7 years of age or 8 years of age, about that. My mummy told me that I didn't need to go to school tomorrow. I said, yay, I can go to the park and play football with my friends. I said, no, the reason you can't go to school tomorrow because you have a dentist appointment. Ah! In those days, and those of you my sort of age, the dentists were really scary. If they injected you, the needles were like recyclable, so they really they hurt when they put them in your mouth. And you saw all these other, the tool which I really just was so scared of, this little hook thing, which they used to scratch the stuff in your mouth, and that looked like torture. And it actually felt like torture. They put these fingers in your mouth, and as a 7-year-old kid, I was terrified of the dentist. So I told my mummy, said, I'm not going, I'll go to school instead. She said, no, you have to go. And so I cried and threw a tantrum and sent me to bed. And when I got to bed, I realized worrying about it's not going to help. I'll have to be a little bit more sneaky. So as a 7-year-old, you're still intelligent. How can I get out of this? And my strategy was when I woke up in the morning, I said, Mummy, you don't love me. I tried to make her feel guilty. But it just did not work. I tried all sorts of stuff, but that was my main strategy, but it didn't work. And she was, in the end, she dragged me, kicking and screaming to the dentist. I was screaming and crying, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. Why'd you do this to me? Send me to torture. If I'd have been smarter, I'd have said, well, when I grow up, I'll get a lawyer and I will charge you for abuse, Mummy. That's how it felt. But anyway, when we got to the dentist eventually, after all that kicking and screaming, not sleeping well the night before, my appointment was cancelled. The dentist was sick. All that worry for nothing. And I learned a good lesson from that. All the worry and the screaming and the kicking, because I was worried about something which was likely to happen but didn't. So at the end, I realized from that it's a waste of time worrying. You never know what's going to happen. Anyway, in Jhana Grove, you have a good network of walkway paths in the forest. Why not name each path by names of monks and nuns? We're really, really running short of questions. These crazy ideas these days. Okay, number 1, Ajahn Brahm Highway. No, it shouldn't be highway. It should be like, what's it like when you have a very wide road? Broadway or something? Promenade, yeah, or something. Ajahn Brahmali Road, Ajahn Wayama Avenue, Ajahn Chakro Drive. Thank you, Metta. You can do better than that. You can have Eightfold Path. You can say Bodhisattva Way. It's nice to have a sense of humour, because every now and again that people like religion to laugh at itself sometimes, not to always be so serious. So what was it that was it the Insight Mind or something? One of these really intellectual Buddhist magazines in the United States. They sent an email to me. We're doing an edition on enlightenment. Can you write an article for us? Oh, crikey. Why do we have to write an article about enlightenment instead of doing it? So anyway, I got on the computer and I thought, I'm just going to have some fun. Enjoy myself. So I said, this is the TV show, The Enlightenment or Bust. What was it, a TV show or something? Now, who wants to become enlightened? That was it. And there were 4 contestants. Representing the Vajrayana tradition was Bo. No, was it? No, that was a Mahayana tradition, Bodhisattva. Representing Theravada was Anaparna. And made all these silly names. And had all these contests to see who was the most enlightened. And they had to show psychic powers. So I think it was the Zen monk managed to rise up in the air. I'm just making this up as I went along. Rise up in the air, and the audience were just so excited. They all burst out cheering and clapping, and that broke his meditation, and he came crashing down to the ground and died. All sorts of silly things like this, I said, in this book. And I just did it for a joke. Just made it up as I went along, sent it off. And I said, well, I'll send a proper article later on. And I got the email straight back, no. We like this. And it was published. Or like the foreword to the Art of Disappearing book. And I did that in 5 minutes, just wrote it. And in the end, the art of disappearing is so you can disappear. So you have no attachments, no identity, everything disappears. You lose everything. And I said that I remember once being told by some friends, they didn't understand what a Buddhist was. They said you had a great degree, lots of potential in life, and you just lost it all. You're a loser. And I said, yes, you understand. You're losing all your responsibilities and worries and anxieties and all your money and all of your other stuff which you think gives you freedom, gives you a lot of tension. And I said, yeah, I'm one of the world's biggest losers. You know who the biggest loser is? The Buddha was the biggest loser. Lost everything. We're so happy and peaceful. And so in the end, I said, so my final words to you is, get lost. And that was one of the other things I thought, I'd never get away with that. But actually they published that one too. It's in the foreword to my book. That's nice, because it shows our path in a different way, in a way which is real, which people can relate to, which makes fun, instead of sanctifying some of the great things of life. It's good to have respect, but sometimes respect goes too far. And sometimes you see like leaders sitting in these big thrones, and they're supposed to be religious leaders who've given up the world, and they give them thrones and live in palaces, and there's something wrong with that. And so it's very nice when the biggest religious leaders, they can just talk to you and crack jokes. It connects them with you and you with them. It's one of the reasons why, and I tell lots of jokes. And sometimes, you wear ordinary robes, and sometimes they're dirty. And some say, no, we'll clean it for you. I say, no. Sometimes I say, we'll give you a new robe. I say, no. We'll give you the Gucci robe. No. Because they try and just keep things sort of down to earth. But the kindness is the thing which is heavenly. The letting go and simplicity, that is really high. Not the seat you sit on. Do you understand? Okay, that's actually all the questions. Don't know if I answered them to your satisfaction, but because it's reasonably quite early, did you want ask questions from the floor? Or would you like another ghost story? Yes. You crazy people. Okay. Another ghost story. Here we go. So, I love telling this story because it stops people getting afraid of ghosts and just shows them how kind ghosts can be. And this was, please, did I tell the story about Ron Battersby and Bianca? I haven't, okay. Well, Mr. Battersby, who was Bianca's partner for so many years, they both were really poor people when they sort of met at school. And but Ron was a very, very honest, hard-working young man. I don't know why he never went to a place like a university, because he was really smart. Same with Bianca. I don't know why she never went to university. She was so incredibly smart and hardworking. But anyway, they never did. But anyway, he had a job as a builder's labourer. And they were working on this house in Mount Lawley, an old house. And that because he was a labourer, the bottom of the pecking order in the building company, he was the one who always on Friday night had to stay there to clean up. And so he was there one evening on a Friday. Everyone else had left, gone home early, and he was just cleaning up. And as he was walking past part of the house on the outside, he heard the sound. Put your hand under here. Put your hand under here. I'm just imagining it, because there's no one around. And then he was really listening now, and he heard it the third time. Put your hand under here. And so he did. Young men, not scared. He put his hand underneath the house, the stumps and an old house. He put it under there, and he felt a tin box. He brought the tin box out, and he opened it, and it was full of thousands of dollars. And he took it home, and he said that was how they got the deposit for their first house together. Got them started in life, and did the research afterwards. The reason they were renovating the house was the previous owner had died. And that's why they were renovating it to sell. And the previous owner had been a businessman and never liked paying tax. So he kept all the money underneath the house. And he wanted Ron to have it. So put your hand under here. And that's how they got started in life. Yeah, lovely story, lovely ghost. True, absolutely true, yeah? Really? Wow. Because sometimes you have Leha here as a retreat manager. Sometimes you have Bianca here as a retreat manager. And sometimes in the evening she's sitting in the back. And she's told me many times how true that was. So many times I've asked her here, was that true? Yes, it was true. So if ever you are walking past a house and you hear that sound, put your hand under here. No. Please do so. And you have to remember that 10% goes to the monastery. As our commission. No. Okay. That was a very quick ghost story. And that's the real ghost stories. This was not a nice ghost story. Don't mind a nice ghost, this is a very scary one. You like scary ones? Don't like that. This was in Thailand. It went around and, it was true. This was in the hospital. Sirirat Hospital, maybe about must have been before then, maybe 40 years ago, in Sirirat Hospital. That was where the best hospital in Bangkok, just on the opposite side of the river from the old Royal Palace. And anyway, there was a doctor was finishing off the night shift. He was in the elevator, just going down to the basement to get in his car to drive home. There was another nurse with him at the time. And halfway down, before they reached the basement where the car park was, the lift stopped, the elevator stopped, the doors opened. And on the outside there was a patient wanting to get in. And as soon as the doctor saw that patient, he freaked out. And he pushed, closed the door button on the elevator on the lift. And the doors closed before the patient, it was quite slow because of all the stuff on him. The door closed, and the nurse was just really upset. Why did you not let him in? That's a patient trying to get in. Yeah, you're the doctor, but you should, respect patients. And the doctor, just really, really afraid, said, that was a patient. That was one of my patients who died last night. And in Thailand, that when somebody dies, they put this red string around their wrists, and that signifies that they're dead. And so he said to the nurse, "Didn't you see the red string around his wrist? He's dead." And at that, the nurse lifted up her arm and said, "I've got a red string too." And what happened next is no one really knows, because that doctor was found unconscious on the lift, on the ground of the lift. And when they woke him up, he wasn't dead, but he was so shocked, and he said, "That's what happened." And true, yeah, they checked out that nurse had died on the way to work in a car accident. But one of the lovely stories about are you going to be able to sleep tonight, by the way? Okay. One of the lovely stories happened in Adelaide, apparently. And it really shows you a lot about ghosts and how they work, what happened. Anyway, there's this couple, they were getting married. And, I've done maybe marriage blessings in my life, and it always is the same, that they say the marriage is going to be, say, 3 o'clock. And the bride always arranges to arrive about 3:05. Never ever on time. It's not done to be on time if you're the bride. So anyway, the bride arrived at about 3:05 or whatever the time was. And when she arrived and all excited, getting out of the car, she was told that the groom hadn't arrived yet. And that started making her a little bit worried, because sometimes the guys get, they say cold feet. They don't want to go through with it. But that she said, "That's not him. He really wanted to marry me." So she waited, and they tried to find out what happened to the groom. And after about 20 minutes, they saw him coming down the road. He was running, which was surprising, because he had his own car while he was running towards her. And when they came close and embraced, and she could see that he had all this dust and dirt and a bit of blood on his face. And he said that he had a car crash on the way to the ceremony. And she said, "Let's take you to the hospital now." He said, No, I'm okay. I'll just go in the men's room, just clean up. Let's do the ceremony. We're already late. So that's what he did. He cleaned up in the men's room and went through the whole ceremony, with all the vows and exchanging rings and signing the books as well, the confetti. And after the ceremony was complete, that the two of them, the bride and the groom, they went in a car, just the two of them, just to have a little bit of time together on the way to the reception. And she did the driving, because he was a bit still unsteady after the accident. And everyone else followed behind. They owned the same route to the reception place. And the people behind, they saw the car with the bride and groom in had stopped by the side of the road. And the bride was there just hysterical, crying her eyes out, and no sign of the groom. And they asked, "What had happened? What had happened? Did he run away?" Or he said, No. He was sitting next to me. And then he vanished. He disappeared. He just wasn't in the car anymore. Yeah, you know the story. Is what had happened. That spot was where the crash had happened. That's where the groom had died. It was the wife who'd married a dead person. He wanted to marry her so much that even though he was dead, he managed to make a body and enough to actually go through the ceremony. Sorry? Oh yeah, he signed the books. The marriage certificates and everything. Photographs, everything. It's one of the strangest. But it was true. No one was really harmed on that. They actually went through the marriage. Only they didn't have much of a ceremony afterwards, no honeymoon. But is that enough ghost stories for the night? Okay, Athos. Is that okay for the night? Do you want another one? A funny ghost story. Oh my goodness me. Because you had the funny one last night. Is there any other funny ghost stories? Oh, they're all actually nice stories. I've done that one already. That's nice. Oh, yeah. Now, what was it again? How did it go? How did it start? Yeah, he tried to buy a house. The agent said it was haunted. Oh yeah, I remember it now. This was actually in my home country in London. Because there's many ghosts in London. Thank you for that. That's a long time since I told that story. That's a really good one. So there's many sort of ghosts in London. And this person... There's another story now I remember from London. And so anyway, the friend was looking for a house and found a townhouse, really nice location. I think 3 stories or something. And anyway, it was vacant. And even though the real estate agent said it was haunted, it was such a low price. He said, well, why not? So he bought it. And the first night, he was in the ground floor just sleeping there. In the middle of the night, he heard the sound. Rap, rap. Rap, rap. And he thought, I'm just imagining it. And then he covered himself with a blanket. And he heard it again. Rap, rap. Rap, rap. So he got out of bed, and just to make sure, it's probably a window was not been locked properly, the wind was making it move. So he checked all the windows and the doors, everything was locked, there was no wind. There was no holes in the place for like little mice or something to run around and make those noises. And he thought, just imagination. So he went to bed again. Rap, rap! And he realized it wasn't in the ground floor, it was in the next level. So he went up the stairs, turned on the light, looked all around, couldn't find any scientific reason for that noise. Rap, 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 rap. So he decided to go down the stairs again. As he was walking down the stairs, rap, 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 rap. This is coming from the top story. So he went up to the top story, turned the lights on, checked everything thoroughly. There was no reason for, there's nothing there. It was pretty much an empty house. So he decided to go down the stairs, go to bed and forget about all this business with ghosts. And as he was going down the stairs, he heard it another time. Rap, rap! It was coming from the attic. Oh. Sometimes in these old houses, you don't want to see what's up in the attic. But there's no way he can go to sleep anyway. So he got a ladder and he went to the little manhole in the top there to look what's in the attic. And because there's no electricity up there, he had a flashlight. He put his head up through the manhole and started looking through the attic. Couldn't see anything. And then, without warning, he heard it right behind him. Rap, rap! Rap, rap! He turned around, he shone the flashlight and he saw it. It was right behind him. It was an old piece of wrapping paper. It's your fault. It's a long time since I told that joke. Thank you. Yeah, wrapping paper. Goes rap, rap. Okay, last joke, quickly. Ghost joke. And that was the story of the girl from Perth who went on holiday to England when the time you could go on holiday. And what you do when you go to a place like England is you've got to see the old castles. So she went to this old castle, and those old castles, many really bad things happened in the dungeons and underground. People were tortured and killed, maybe for believing in the wrong religion or because they didn't pay the whatever it was to the king. So in those underground places, there's lots and lots of ghosts. But she wasn't afraid. She was a scientist. She didn't believe in such things. But nevertheless, she did a tour of the dungeons with the guide. And even though she didn't believe in ghosts, it was a really, really scary tour. Because every time she trod on the floorboard, they creaked. And every time they opened one of these old doors, and whenever there's any ventilation, these old stone windows, it's all the side effects I've got, okay. I'll try my best. And when they finished, and they got upstairs, she was relieved. But she couldn't help but ask the guide, are there any ghosts in these dungeons? And the guide pretty seriously said to her, in all the years I've lived in this castle, I've never ever seen a ghost. She was relieved. But she had to ask the next question. How long have you lived in this castle? He said, over 300 years. Okay. How long have I been in Perth? Okay, enough. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, you should encourage me, but thank you. How have you enjoyed tonight? Oh dear, yeah. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, very good. Have a nice night, evening. Okay. Okay. Is that not Indonesia? Is that Vietnamese? Oh.